I'm really the most goated MMA fighter in the world, but whatever.
Now, the Kryptonian Guy.
What's up, guys? Kryptonian MMA here. I feel like I've been gone for a while. Sorry about that. Happy New Year. Happy belated New Year to all you guys. I hope you all are doing well. But guys, first, let me fix this chair. I don't want you guys making fun of my setup more than you probably already do. Guys, today we are going to be talking about me, your boy, the Kryptonian himself, the GOAT. Guys, if you hadn't figured this out by now, I'm a lifelong martial artist. I know, it's surprising. But guys, no, seriously, I wanted to take time, instead of talking about a particular topic about in the world of fighting itself, I wanted to talk about my adjustment from Tae-Kwon-do to MMA and essentially why I made the shift and didn't decide to pursue a career in Taekwondo. A little bit of backstory. I've quite literally been doing Taekwondo since the age of 5 years old, and I still do it, teach it, train in it actively today at 24 years old. I'm a fourth degree black belt, hopefully soon to get my fifth. We'll see. Don't know yet. I got my black belt in 2010, I believe, in March, maybe. So when I got my black belt, I was 9 years old. So I'm not exactly of the mind that a 9-year-old should have a black belt. But I will say that it was a well-earned black belt. That is all I will say. To be honest, I wasn't always good at Taekwondo. Honestly, I don't feel like I got good at Taekwondo until I was probably like 14, maybe. That's when I really started getting decent at it, and I actively started doing competitions and whatnot, because I had the goal to potentially, eventually, hopefully, go to the Olympics for Taekwondo. By the time I started doing active competitions, that was a thing. Going to the Olympics was potentially a possibility, an avenue that I did want to take. And around this same time, I was also throughout my entire teens, I should say, so from 13 onward, I was I was also interested in MMA. Like at the same time, I was also really like interested in that particular type of atmosphere, that particular type of like showing of martial arts. Me and my dad used to watch the UFC on TV back when it was like when you had to do pay per view on Fox, I believe. So like he'd probably be catching a glimpse of it, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is really cool." And he also had like the UFC games at the time. But I digress. That's a little bit of a diversion from the path. Um, I was doing all the competitions for Taekwondo and everything, and it had just kind of reached a point where, to be honest, I kind of started getting tired of competing in Taekwondo a little bit. Not because it was like anything was wrong with it, not because it wasn't exciting, not because I wasn't having fun with it, but I just think that what had happened was is that I had wanted a little bit more of a challenge in my life, and I had wanted to dabble in MMA in the first place, and I literally had to ask myself, I was like, well, you can keep trying to go to the Olympics, which is a beautiful thing in its own right. I won't take that away from anybody. If any Olympic Taekwondo athletes ever see this video, I want you guys to know you guys have my complete, full, and utter respect. You guys are doing something that only a small percentage of the population, and I'm talking about yay small, will ever be able to do. And I wasn't one of those people. Go figure. But in that, I think I just kind of got tired of it. Not Taekwondo itself, but I think I just got tired of being limited to only using certain aspects of fighting, and I was finally ready to like dabble into something else because I told myself I was like, I want to be an MMA fighter. Now at the time when I said it, I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know how to be an MMA fighter, like as far as like how do you do that process. So I kind of had to figure that out a little bit later on. At first I thought, hey, maybe if I just start training in like another style of martial arts, then I'm technically an MMA fighter. That's how my brain saw it at the time. And if you ask me, that still almost kind of makes sense. Because if you really think about it, that's kind of what you do. You start picking up other styles and then you start communicating with promoters and stuff. And bingo, now you're fighting. But I didn't want to completely leave Taekwondo because that's my bread and butter. That's my base. As I've said in my other videos, that's always gonna be when I'm in a bind and I feel like I can't figure anything out. I'm gonna fall back on my Taekwondo because I'm comfortable with it. But it was just arguably time for me to try and figure out something else. And I told myself, I was like, okay, you want to be an MMA fighter? That's fine. You're gonna have to find an MMA gym. But I told myself, I was like, you've been in Taekwondo for a long time. You need to get your 4th degree, your master's degree, before you go and train in MMA. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think when I finally had said that to myself, I think that had took like 3 extra years before I finally mentally could allow myself to go to an MMA gym. Because I wanted to be like, essentially, like, I want to be official in something before I picked up MMA. I wanted to have a solidified base already. And I know you like, oh, well, you could have already went. You have been doing Taekwondo for so long. But I, in myself, mentally, emotionally, it just didn't make sense in my heart to leave Taekwondo straight, go to MMA, not receiving my master's. So when I got my master's, thank God I had met one of my bros, Chase Keebler. He had introduced me to the idea of coming to Michigan Top Team, located in Michigan, in Southfield, just in case anybody's wondering. And honestly, if I remember correctly, after I got my master's in Taekwondo, after I took the test, after they had officially said, you passed, you're good, you can now get your 4th degree sewn in on your belt, I was like, okay, cool. Had turned in my belt so it could get sewn, and I think 2 weeks later, I was doing MMA. Or at least I was at an MMA gym doing, I think my first class was a kickboxing class. I think that's what I was doing. Because I didn't want to just go straight into I couldn't just go straight into all the grappling and stuff. I didn't know anything. I was arguably, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared. I was skeptical about it at first because it was uncharted territory for me. So I wasn't entirely sure if it was the avenue that I wanted to take. I was like, let me just go see how it is. And like I said, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I never really knew what saying you wanted to be an MMA fighter really meant. I didn't know at the time, I didn't know how much of a grind you need to be on for that. I didn't know essentially the sacrifices that you need to make in life, especially if you're going to try to create a career out of it. And that goes for any form of professional fighting, boxing, kickboxing, whatever, yada, yada, yada. It just so happens to be, for the context of this conversation, it's MMA. I knew I was like, I want to fight, I want to compete in MMA, but as I'm getting, as I'm now, getting a little further into my career a little bit, trying to really make big steps and everything, I can now say 5 years into training MMA and, doing some competitions and everything, and hopefully making my pro debut very soon, is that is not a lifestyle that you take easily. It's not something you take lightly. You have to be all in, both feet in, if you really want to make that lifestyle work. You need to understand the risk, but you also need to understand one of two things. It is a painful lifestyle, and it is also a relatively silly lifestyle to try to make a living off of. But these are things that I'm willing to like accept, because I do personally believe into myself that I can do these things. I don't have any doubt in my mind I can do these things. Correction. There are days where you have doubt that you can do it. But you're always going to have that doubt. You have to be strong enough in your mental to be like, screw that, forget the naysay, push that to the side. I can do this. And I can say that every time I step into the cage, anytime I step into a ring, I know that I'm home. I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm secure. I know that I trusted myself enough to keep myself safe. And I know, and if a situation gets dicey and I gotta like tap out and get out of a situation, I'm gonna do that, because everybody wants to go back home close to being 100%. So I would say that the biggest thing that has helped me as far as being in MMA so far is the fact that I started a traditional background first. I think that it gave me that competitive edge, and I think that it helps that I was in a combat sport that did do semi-contact, that you get hit, you got to learn how to dig through a little bit of adversity and keep pushing forward, because that's all MMA really is. You get hit, you got to hit back. It's just that simple. You get taken down, you got to defend it, you get back up. But I'm happy to say that 5 years in, 7 fights in, it might be 6 fights in, like 8 fight camps or whatever, but I'm happy to say that I have enjoyed my decision and that I have no plans on switching up anytime soon. You guys are going to see my face on a big screen one day, and you're going to come back to this YouTube channel and these earlier videos, such as this one, and you guys are going to be like, holy crap, that guy did exactly what he said he's going to do. But I'm done boring you guys with all the jibber jabber of Tae-Kwon-do to MMA. Leaving Tae-Kwon-do to go to MMA? Yeah, whatever. Say it however you want. But guys, seriously, sorry this video took so long. Life be lifing a little bit sometimes. I'm going to be posting a lot more. You guys are going to see more of my face. You either like it or you don't. And if you don't, like and subscribe regardless. Doesn't matter. But you guys know. Catch you later. Be good people.